Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here today or this morning or in general, taking the time to try to succeed through these difficult times. My name is Greta Rivero, and I'm the director of the Grants and Program at the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And with me today, as you can see, we have a full panel, but Veronica Cordova, who works with me directly, if you need any support or have any questions, she's my go-to girl. You can always reach out to her. Some of you may not be familiar with who we are, so I would like to provide a little background for you. We are the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that is a membership-driven organization which supports economic development for the District of Columbia, as well as the DMV area, Maryland and Virginia. What we do is we facilitate the success of Latino and other minority-owned businesses and communities through networking, advocacy, education, and of course, we provide access to capital through our partners. With us today, we have our very own SBA liaison, Roderick Johnson, who is the lender relations specialist for the Small Business Administration. He's on the panel today. Today's workshop series on Build Your Financial Roadmap is spread out into 4 parts, which most of you have probably registered for. The first topic for today's series is getting clear on your goals. Anyways, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you both of our workshop leaders, Grizel Saez, founder of Harmoney Financial Literacy, and Manny Cosme, president and CEO of the CFO Services Group. Before they get started, I just want to make sure, Roderick, do you have any words you want to say before we kick it off?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad that you are on to hear about how to build your financial roadmap. And I'm looking at this from not only a business standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. And I'm sure Grizel and Manny will be talking about the importance of setting financial goals. Now, it's so important, particularly during this time, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so now there are many people that are suffering because they don't have a job. They're unable to pay their rent or mortgage, their telephone bills, and other utilities. And a part of building that financial roadmap is what? Having some savings and maybe some investments to fall back upon during economic times like this, whether it's on the personal side or the business side. And so I'm very excited that the Chamber Foundation has a series of 4 classes to actually help walk us through exactly how we do that. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the financial experts so that we can get started.
All right, thank you so much. Hi everybody, good morning. I'm Grizel Saez, and I am with my company is Harmoney Financial Literacy. Before we get started, and I'm sure you're going, let's just get started, but I wanted to give a special shout out and thank you to Greta, Veronica, all the folks at the foundation, and of course my colleague Manny and the rest of the panel. Special thank you for Rod. I know how super busy you are, and I do appreciate all your input and help. So let's go ahead and get started. What's your goals? Rod, that was a perfect lead-in. Let me ask you this, and if you can all type in the chat box, how many people here use some sort of a GPS when they go somewhere, like Waze or Google Maps? Can I see? You can raise your hand or type in the chat box. How many of you? 4, 5, 6? We got, how many do we have on the presentation? We have over 40 people.
7 attendees right now. We have 7 people who are raising their hands, and right now we have like 10 people who are saying, I do.
Okay, all right. And you're wondering, why is she asking me this question? Well, to get somewhere new, get somewhere that we have not been to before, it's really a good idea to know where you're gonna go. Once you get that address, then you've got to figure out how to get there. Do you take the side streets? Do you take some sort of a freeway? So with your business, it's really no different. Before you go jump in the car to go wherever, or before you go open the doors of your business, you have to know where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. So out of a show of hands, before we get started, how many of you have some sort of a personal or some sort of a business plan? Awesome. Lots of active participating. I love it. 11, 10. Any more back there?
So we have
Awesome.
10 people. Can you see the number of people?
I can see the numbers now, yeah. Well, Forbes interviewed about 4,000 influential leaders, and they all had one thing in common: true purpose. All of their actions focused on their why they're doing it, where they want to go, what they want to see at the other end. Steve Jobs, his inspiration, and if you don't like the word goal, we can use inspiration if you like, or motivation. But Steve Jobs' motivation was he wanted to change the world. If we look at the other end of the spectrum, we have Pitbull. His motivation was freedom.
Yeah.
He came from Cuba when he was 3 years old, and his whole family just wanted to be free. Fast forward to today, Pitbull is worth over $100 million. That's his net worth. Not bad for a guy that came here at 3 years old whose family just wanted to be free. So I want to take up just a minute to just walk back a little bit, and I want to hear from you. What's your goal? What's your inspiration? What moves you? Speaking of Pitbull, I love it when he says, you know, this is not just about handling the storm. This is about handling the hurricane. As you know, he lives in Miami, and he said it's not a category 1, it's a category 6. So we're in a pandemic right now, as Rod said. So what we want to know is, are you handling the storm, or are you able to handle the hurricane that is out there right now? So can just if you feel like sharing, you can type in, or just let me know, what is your motivation? Why are you in business? Why are you even here today? Have you taken out 45 minutes, an hour of your time today? So I want you to think about, if money was not an issue, what if money was not an issue? What would I be doing? What if you can do what used to get you excited when you were a kid? When you were growing up, what got you excited? What if you could do something for free? You wouldn't even care if you got paid. What would that be? What if you could do something that you truly thought you could be good at or are good at? What if you could do something that you truly believe in? And I heard ecology, I've heard family. What if, now here's a big one for you and my favorite, what if you could do something that you could not fail? What would you do? So out of curiosity, are any of those answers different from what you thought originally when I asked you what your motivation was?
One individual said it was the same, which was Celeste earlier on.
Awesome. That's the kind of roadmap. That's how you build. That's how you start to build your path. It is doing what you believe in, and it's doing what gets you excited. It is doing what gets you motivated. It's doing you. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like. How do we start that? We've got all these wonderful ideas. It all starts with setting goals. And thank you, Rod, you brought it up, and that was a perfect segue. So actually, I believe I read something that the SBA put out, and it says a lot of business, and this is not a secret, right? A lot of businesses fail to plan because they plan to fail. They don't have plans, right? So what we want to do is we want to take a look at, what are your short-term goals? Right now, it could be weeks, even days. I'd like you to start to think about your goal setting 6 months to a year. What does that look like? Is that different than your intermediate goals? Where do you see yourself next year at this time? Next year, third quarter, where do you see yourself? And how about, what's your end game? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? So what I want you to think about is, as entrepreneurs, we're here to shape our own destiny. We can fire ourselves, but nobody can fire us, as one of the folks on the workshop talked about today. Wouldn't it be empowering if you could live your dream now? Wouldn't it be empowering for you if you knew what your numbers and your goals were? Not just to survive, which is just the short term, not just to exist, which is the medium term, the intermediate, but to really flourish, which is your long-term goals. Wouldn't it be awesome if you can have these goals in place so that you can feel good about what you do. And obviously that will translate into profits, because you're more comfortable, you're going to be more profitable, and it snowballs for you. So it may or may not surprise you that part of success or business is measured, your success is measured in business by only 10% of your efforts. So let me say that again. 10%, of your talent accounts for your success, which means 90% of your business is actually learning how to run the business. Does that make sense? We start to learn how to run our business by setting SMART goals. Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they achievable? Are they relevant? Do you have a time frame? So specifically, I have here what needs to be accomplished. Well, that's obviously starting your business. Why do you want to start the business? Goes back to that why. So why do you want to start that business? What was your reasoning for starting that business? So if we're going to be using this as an example, we have someone that wants or wanted to start a business. So if she's going to set goals for that business to be successful, because remember, 90% of the business is running the business, 10% is only talent. What was her rationale, or what was her reasoning, or what was her motivation for wanting to start that business? Is that goal reasonable? Did you look at the research and see how many stores were in the area? Did you have the capital and resources to start that business? When we're going to start a business, or we're in business, no matter what level, you should always have goals. Those goals should be very specific. You should be able to measure them. They should be able to be achieved. They should be current and relevant, and they should have a time frame. When you're setting specific goals, it's a good idea to know exactly what needs to be accomplished, how you're going to measure that accomplishment, if it's achievable and in what time frame, if it's relevant, is it worthwhile? Is it flexible enough to be able to pivot and change based on the demands of whatever is happening in the market? And what is the time deadline for achieving the goal? Most businesses that start up within the first year are not that profitable. So what is your timetable for achieving that success? Part of achieving that success depends on staying on track. And it's up to you to be able to commit to your plan on a daily basis. And we talk about this over and over again, but it's really knowing your numbers. It's remembering first and foremost your why. It's building a support system, having a team around you. That doesn't mean employees. Maybe it's mentors. Maybe it's other business owners, but building that support system. We had another workshop where we talked a lot about having blind spots. That support system helps for you to expose, or those blind spots to be exposed to you. Again, stay flexible. Can you pivot or pivot? You know, who saw a pandemic coming? Who saw a shutdown coming? So what can you do? I had a meeting this morning with somebody, and we were talking about having multiple streams of income. So staying flexible depends on where you can get your resources at, and having those multiple sources of either generating income or generating capital. Staying relevant, staying current, and most of all, accepting your imperfections. You know, guys, we're not perfect. Our businesses aren't going to be run perfectly. If you are humble enough to learn from your mistakes, and if you're open enough to ask for help from your mentors, from the resources out there, you will be successful. How many people actually use planning sheets? Has anyone out there decided or had a plan, of those of you that had a plan and found that what you had hoped to accomplish for that week or for that day or for that month was just a little too ambitious?
Constantly.
And what do you do about that, Manny?
I'm very ambitious.
Lots of yeses, lots and lots. And one was like, yes, and when I diet.
Amen. I agree.
Yeah. And so what happens is that when we do that, remember a couple slides ago, I talked about having your goals be attainable. But when we don't attain those goals, a lot of us go into paralysis, and that inaction, that breeds doubt and fear. And that's why staying on track and having a plan and being able to be flexible, that's why that's so important, so that you don't fall into that cycle. But Manny, work with me here. What do you do? Because I know that you are super ambitious. So what happens when you set a daily plan, or for you probably a weekly plan, and it doesn't all get accomplished, it doesn't all get done? How do you deal with that?
Well, you know what? So that's a great question. What I learned as an entrepreneur is you have to be very flexible. It's all about being in the moment. So while you plan for the long term or even the short term, you do have to be flexible, because as a small business owner, things come up on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. And so just learning to move things along. I mean, I will tell you, I personally use Asana a lot, which is a great project management tool. My whole team uses it. And so I use that for myself to set up a Gantt chart. If anyone knows what that is, I'll be like super geeky here for a second, but a Gantt chart, which helps like put things in timelines. So that's how I create projects and just move them along, you know, if needed. So.
But let's stay on this for a minute, because part of staying on track is really so that you can develop better estimates about how long things do take. Because as a business owner, we all know that things do take a lot longer. Some of these things are just not in our control. So having that and being able to shift, not take it personal, not beat yourself up, but carry it over. Part of also the reason for tracking is to know your numbers. I mean, we are entrepreneurs. No one is going to give us a check at the end of the week. So you need to know what your numbers look like, because there's no one that's going to step in Friday at 4 o'clock to take care of the bills for that week. So having planning sheets, and you can get, and I love that, Manny, you're using a geeky thing that's offware. Make sure that you write that in the chat box. People might want to check that out. But I've worked with people that keep a notebook, you know, and that's fine. You know, you can put it on your phone, you can put it on your iPad, you can use an old-fashioned spreadsheet. There's a lot of contact management systems out there that will help you do that. And we're happy to send those out to you at the end of the presentation. Some of them are not very expensive. Some of them are as much as $10 a month. So there's things that you can do to help you stay on track. And I'm not talking about the Post-it note. I'd like you to get a little bit more organized, because that, whoever said organization, kudos to you. That is how you're going to succeed, is if you're organized. The sooner that you can see your blind spot, the sooner you can address it. You know, in business, when we do these workshops, everyone's usually focused on, you know, I'm not doing well or what have you, but the other end of the spectrum is just as problematic. There are just as many people, when they get to that level of where they've achieved, quote unquote, they stop. And in business, you need to keep your pipeline flowing all of the time. A perfect example is I'm working with a gal that's in real estate. She has a team in real estate. And so what happens inevitably is that they'll get, like right now, the market is so hot. So they sold a bunch of stuff. Now there's all the closings. So what happens when you sell something that's closed? Well, in the real estate business, you go back to zero. So they all got very complacent because they had all these deals in the pipeline. And now as those deals are closing, they're back to ground zero. So in business, it's always good to be thinking ahead. But a lot of us get caught up in the moment, which is a good thing. However, that is not how you achieve your long term. So having those plans, and honestly, guys, it comes back to remembering your why. The reason that most people stop when they achieve the first level of success is either A, they didn't think they could get there and they're happy they got there, or B, they're just okay to coast along because they just have enough. And we did not get into business just to have enough. We're entrepreneurs. We take the world in our own hands, right? It's our own destiny. And we can be and do whatever we want to do. But if you don't understand your why and what your numbers, what you want those to be, you're not going to get there. So do you remember that slide? Let's see if I can go back here. We went back to the SMART goals. So it's like the person that wants to do the marathon but hasn't even walked around the block, you know, maybe a couple times. You cannot get to the finish line unless you start at the beginning. So whether it's a bakery business, it's a home-based business, or an advanced computer software business, what is it that you want to do? You want to start a bakery. How are you going to do it? How do you know you're going to succeed? Have you done the research? How long is it going to take for the bakery to get up and running for you to make profit? Do you have the money to start that? Or are you hoping to get it along the way? Did you set a goal? Do you want to sell X amount of goods in this quarter, or this much money per month or per week? And is the goal worthwhile? Is making $250 a day, is that a worthwhile goal? What's your goal? Once you get to that goal, are you committed, and will you do anything that it takes to get to that goal? If it means not sleeping all night or whatever to get there, it's going the extra mile. And what is your deadline for either reaching the goal or deciding that the goal, that it's not a viable business for you? And we did that workshop a while ago, Is Your Business Viable? And we explored some of those. So I would challenge you to go back and see if you had your goals in place. Because again, unless you have your goals in place, unless you know where you want to go, none of this is going to make sense. You can't commit to something if you don't know what that is. You can't, remember, if you don't have a GPS and you've never been to the beach, how are you going to get there? So you need to know where you're going to go. So let's start with helping you first. Write down your numbers. Commit, it's like the diet. Commit to it today, okay? No more bread for the rest of the week, or whatever it takes for you. Whatever it is that's for you, commit and take small steps. You know, they told me a long time, you know, Griselle, how do you eat an elephant? And you eat that elephant one bite at a time. So if we can apply that same thing to our businesses, we're going to be okay. But you can't start out at the finish line. You have to start out at the beginning. So just one more thing as we wrap up, actually two more things, and I know we're getting short on time, but cash flow. Remember the slide before talked about know your numbers. Guys, let's be realistic. Know what your numbers are and know what your budget is. Do you have a budget? And do you know how that budget works? Do you know how to make changes? Do you know how to forecast? So that you walk away with something concrete. So know your numbers. That's part of your business plan for next week. So let's all commit. Remember my slide before? Let's commit to having, within the next week, some sort of a budget, a realistic budget. We know the environment that we're living in. Let's commit to having a realistic budget, and we'll explore that next week. Mm-hmm. We're also going to talk about how you manage that cash flow. And probably some of you are thinking, what cash flow? I don't have cash flow to manage. Well, you do, and we'll work with that. Some of you are thinking, I'm cash flush. I know some of you that are in the audience today received monies, because I got a call from one of you that said, Griselle, I'm scared to death. I got this money and I don't know how to spend it. My business isn't open. I'm afraid I'll have to pay it back if I don't follow the guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. So how you manage your cash is not about, I don't have money. It's also about, what if I have money? How do I manage it? And most important thing, if you walk away with anything from today with respect with cash flow, is what's your break even? And I'm here to tell you that none of us is here to break even, but you must know what your break even point is. Otherwise, you're swimming with the sharks. You are in the dark. You will not get to where you need to go. The last thing that I want to discuss for this is part of your path is know what your credit looks like. Yesterday, I was talking to a gal that has a business who did not realize her personal credit was going to affect her business credit. They do. They are closely in line. They're kissing cousins. You have one without the other. So that's a whole nother workshop, but know what your credit score is. And we can send that out too. There's a number of free credit sources out there where you can get that information. So we don't care what it is, but you should know what that is. So we won't go to specifics next week, but I will be talking about credit and how that's going to impact your roadmap and your ability to get more capital. Sound good? So to recap today, and I'm right at the 44-minute mark, we've talked about what's my why, and I would really encourage you to give that 100% effort this week. If you do not know what you want to accomplish, you're going to fall short. Establish goals for yourself, short-term, intermediate, but long-term goals. Start to work on your SMART goals. Really give them some meat, really put a time to them, really make them achievable, really make them trackable, really make them measurable. Stay on track so that you don't fall off. Budgeting and cash flow. Have some sort of an idea of what you need and what monies you have coming in and out. And take a look at your credit, because that's your personal credit, again, affects your long-term, your business credit. So bottom line is always expect the unexpected, just like Grant Cardone says, I love him. And remember that law, the German scientist law, that things take longer than we expect. It's called the Hofstadter law. Things are always going to take longer than we expect. For Thursday, we're going to be looking at creating a business plan. And I want to have that a working workshop where we're actually going to put together the pieces of a business plan. I'm not talking about a 23-page document. I'm talking about a one-sheeter that you can use as a reference, as a guide. So I hope that all of you can join us, or as many of you that can join us next Thursday at 11 o'clock, and we'll continue on the road to your financial success. We want you to be successful, but it's up to you to have that start point. So if you come to me, to Manny, to the chamber and say, this is where I am, we're going to ask you, where did you start? And where did you want to go? So there's no shortcut in life. You can't start from the middle. You've got to start at the beginning. And I promise you, we will get you to the end. Success is measured by the ability to sustain profits year after year after year, not week after week. Yeah. Greta, we have about 3 minutes left. Do we have any burning desire out there?
There's some people that said a lot of times putting these documents together requires a professional assistance. Would you all facilitate that service? And I'm already like answering to some of the questions here, but I want everyone to really understand what it is the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber does. On the chamber side, you become a member and you receive assistance through our consultants program. So I would say go on our website and take a look and see what kind of options we have available to you. But on the foundation side, we offer free technical business support to any small business located in the DMV area. And in order to acquire that, you just fill out an online assessment, which was actually typing up, but it's faster to say it. If you fill it out, I'd be happy to match you with a consultant that can assist you. Like, for example, Grizel here, she is one of our members as well as one of my consultants. And she's super helpful, as you can see, very knowledgeable. And I'm happy to match you with someone that can help guide you and educate you on how to utilize and understand your finances. Because although you may think you know what you're looking at the end of the day, it can be very burdensome. So maybe hiring, if you have the money to do it, you hire someone to help you out. And if you don't, then it's best you learn so that you can do at least the basic part, which is understanding the numbers. If there are no more questions, then I think we're gonna wrap it up. Like I said, if you need any like mentoring or coaching or want any one-on-one assistance with education on how to understand your finances or how to manage your finances, you can reach out to me. You can email me. My email is GRI, and I'll type it in the chat for you, GRIVERO@gwhcc.org. I think we're done. I think we'll end it here, and I will see everyone next Thursday, I hope.
All right.
All right, everybody, make it a good one.
Thank you for your time.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.